Hey folks, Mike and Moose here. What if the biggest thing holding back your modeling skills is all the YouTube videos you've been watching? YouTube has made learning easier than ever, but it could be making us overthink every step. By the end of this video, I'll tell you why I think tutorials are both the best and worst thing that has happened to the hobby. That's coming up next on Modeling with Mike. Hello and welcome back. And let's talk about the good old days and how modelers learned before YouTube came along. Well, number one, modelers learned by trial and error. Before YouTube, if you wanted to learn a new technique, you often had to just experiment and see what happened. You tried a new paint without knowing exactly how it would spray. Tried different glue amounts. Experimented with weathering techniques. Modelers learned by doing, not by watching. And mistakes were often the teacher. Number two, we learned through magazine articles. Magazines were one of the few places to learn new techniques and see high quality builds. They gave us step-by-step build articles, product reviews, technique demonstrations, and photos of contest-winning models. Information was available, but it wasn't unlimited. You got a few ideas and then had to apply them yourself. Number three, you had club meetings. Local club meetings were the closest thing to a live tutorial. You brought your model to the meeting. You asked experienced builders questions. You saw demonstrations and you got feedback on your work. Learning was personal and interactive rather than coming from a screen. Number four, we learned from our mistakes. Every builder has ruined paint jobs, broken parts, and glue marks somewhere in their modeling journey. We've all had paint reactions, silvering decals, fingerprints and fresh paint, and misaligned parts. These mistakes often taught lessons that stuck longer than anything you could read or watch. And number five, we developed our own personal techniques. Without endless tutorials telling you the quote-unquote right way, many modelers develop methods that worked especially for them, such as their own custom sanding methods, unique paint sequences, homemade tools, and personal weathering styles. Builders weren't trying to copy a YouTube creator. They were figuring out their own approach and gaining confidence in the process. Now, I'm not saying that those days were better. In fact, YouTube has made learning techniques faster and easier than ever before. But the way we learn has definitely changed. And that's where the conversation gets interesting. Let's talk about the incredible benefits of tutorials. One of the biggest advantages of tutorials is they can shorten the learning curve. They teach us the importance of test fitting parts before gluing. They make us understand about proper paint preparation. They can make us avoid common decal application mistakes. And they often teach us basic seam removal techniques. A beginner can learn in minutes what might have taken older models several kits to discover on their own. Number two, new techniques are easier to learn. Techniques that once seemed mysterious are now just a few clicks away, such as airbrushing, bare metal foil techniques, weathering effects, paint polishing, and custom detailing. Seeing someone perform a technique on video is often more effective than trying to understand. Seeing someone perform a technique on video is often more effective than trying to understand it from a written description. Number 3, product reviews save money. In the past, buying a new product often meant taking a chance and hoping it worked. Now we have paint reviews, airbrush reviews, tool comparisons, adhesive demonstrations, and kit reviews. Modelers can now see products in action before spending money, helping them make more informed purchases. Number 4, inspiration is available 24/7. You no longer have to wait till the next club meeting, contest, or magazine issue to find inspiration. Now we have build videos, showcase videos, contest coverage, workbench updates, and project walkthroughs at our fingertips. Whenever motivation is running low, there's almost something online that can spark excitement for the next project. Number 5, the modeling community is more connected than ever. YouTube has made it possible for modelers all over the world to share ideas and learn from one another. Through comment discussions, live streams, collaborative projects, guest appearances, and international friendships. A modeler who may not have a local club nearby can still interact with thousands of fellow hobbyists and feel connected to the broader modeling community. With all those benefits, it sounds like YouTube should be an unquestioned positive for the hobby. But if that's true, why do so many modelers feel overwhelmed, intimidated, and stuck? That's where the other side of the story begins. Let's talk about the downside of YouTube tutorials that nobody talks about. Number 1, we have too many opinions. One of the strengths of YouTube is that everyone can share their experiences. The downside of YouTube is that everyone can share their experiences. One creator says use primer, another one says it isn't necessary. One builder swears by a certain paint brand, another avoids it completely. New modelers can end up thinking there's a single correct answer, when in reality, many successful builders achieve great results using different methods. Number 2, there's too many must-have products. Many tutorials unintentionally make it seem like success depends on buying more tools, paints, and accessories, such as specialty sanding products, premium airbrushes, multiple paint systems, dedicated weathering products, and large collections of aftermarket parts. Beginners can start believing they need hundreds of dollars worth of supplies before they can build a good model, when many excellent builders started with only a few basic tools. Number 3, too many conflicting techniques. YouTube gives access to countless techniques, but not all of them agree with one another. For example, different paint sequences, different decal application methods, different weathering approaches, and different sanding and polishing routines. When a beginner watches 10 different tutorials on the same topic, they often end up with 10 different answers. Instead of feeling more confident, they can become hesitant to start because they're worried about choosing the wrong method. The problem isn't that any of these creators are wrong. The problem is that a beginner might hear 10 modelers giving 10 different pieces of advice and assume that one of them is correct and the other 9 are wrong. In reality, there are often many paths to a successful build, and when you're constantly trying to figure out which opinion, which project, or which technique is the right one, something interesting starts to happen. You spend less time building and more time researching. That's where analysis paralysis can step in. Now let's talk about analysis paralysis. A certain pattern starts happening. Number 1, we watch 10 videos before starting. Research is helpful, but at some point it can become a substitute for starting. For example, you watch multiple videos on seam removal before touching the kit. You look at countless painting tutorials before spraying a single part. And you're searching for more advice instead of starting the next step. The builder feels productive because they're learning, but no actual modeling is taking place. Eventually, preparation can become procrastination. Number 2, buying supplies instead of building. It's easy to fall into the trap of thinking the next purchase will solve every problem, such as buying another paint set, purchasing a new airbrush, adding more weathering products, or accumulating tools that rarely get used. Sometimes modelers spend more time shopping than building because they believe they're one purchase away from better results, when practice would likely help more than another purchase. Number 3, chasing the perfect technique. YouTube exposes us to incredible builders and techniques, but it can create the impression that each step must be done perfectly, and we end up totally restarting a paint job because of a single minor flaw, spending hours trying to achieve a finish that's already good enough, and constantly changing techniques because someone else does it differently. The pursuit of perfection can prevent projects from ever being completed. A finished model often teaches more than a perfect model that never gets built. Number 4, beginners are comparing themselves to professionals. Many tutorials are created by highly skilled builders with years or even decades of experience, and thusly beginners are comparing a first airbrushed model to a contest-winning build. They're feeling discouraged because results don't match what's seen online, and they assume everyone's work comes naturally. Viewers often compare their beginning to someone else's mastery. What they don't see are the years of mistakes, failed experiments, and learning that happen behind the scenes. Analysis paralysis happens when learning stops being a tool and starts becoming a barrier. Instead of building models and gaining experience, we get stuck trying to find the perfect answer, the perfect product, or the perfect technique. And analysis paralysis doesn't just affect what we do at the workbench. It can also affect how we see our own work, especially when we're constantly surrounded by some of the best models in the world. Now let's talk about social media and unrealistic expectations. Number 1, only the best builds get showcased. Social media and YouTube naturally highlight exceptional work because that's what attracts attention. They show contest-winning models, highly detailed custom builds, professional level paint jobs, and they showcase products that took hundreds of hours to complete. There's nothing wrong with showing great work, but if that's all a beginner sees, they may start to believe that these results are normal and typical rather than the exception. Number 2, mistakes are often edited out. Most viewers only see the finished video, not the entire journey. They don't see the paint reaction that required stripping and repainting. They don't see the broken part that had to be repaired. They don't see the decals that silvered and had to be replaced. But one thing they do see is hours of troubleshooting condensed into a few seconds. Most creators show the outcome, but not every setback along the way. This can make complex techniques look easier than they actually are. Number 3, beginners compare their first build to someone's 20th year in the hobby. This is probably one of the biggest confidence killers in the hobby. A new modeler compares their first airbrush attempt to a builder with decades of experience. A beginner expects their weathering to look like a national contest winner's, or someone building their third kit compares themselves to a creator who has built hundreds. The comparison isn't fair because the experience levels are completely different. What viewers see is the result of years of practice, not where the person started. It's like a Pop Warner football player comparing themselves to an NFL Hall of Famer. There's no comparison. Number 4, perfection becomes the expectation. When surrounded by amazing builds, it's easy to start thinking that every model must be flawless. You worry about tiny imperfections that no one else will see. You refuse to call a project finished because it isn't perfect. And you become afraid of trying new techniques for fear of making mistakes. The pursuit of perfection can rob people of the enjoyment that brought them to the hobby in the first place. Progress is often a better goal than perfection. It's like MK of MK Model Works always says. It's his mantra: progress over perfection. The danger isn't seeing great models. Great models can inspire us. The danger is forgetting that we're usually seeing someone's highlight reel, not the years of learning, mistakes, and practice that made those results possible. So if tutorials, social media, and product reviews aren't enough by themselves, what actually builds modeling skill? In my opinion, the answer is surprisingly simple. What actually builds better skills? Well, number 1 thing that builds better skills is building models. At the end of the day, modeling is a hands-on hobby. No amount of watching, reading, or researching can replace time at the workbench. You learn how paint behaves. You improve glue control. You develop sanding and assembly skills. And you gain confidence with each project. The fastest way to improve as a modeler is to build more models. Experience comes from doing, not just learning. Number 2, solving problems. Each model presents challenges, and working through those challenges develops real skills. You correct a fit issue. You repair a broken part. You fix a paint problem. Or you adapt when a technique doesn't work as expected. Problem solving teaches flexibility and confidence. The more problems you solve, the less intimidating future builds become. Number 3, making mistakes. Mistakes are most often the most effective teachers in the hobby. You apply too much glue. You rush paint drying times. You put decals in the wrong place. And you try a new technique that doesn't work out. A mistake that you personally experience is often remembered far longer than advice you hear in a tutorial. Number 4, finishing projects. Many modelers improve from completing a project than from endlessly refining one. If you see a build to completion, you identify strengths and weaknesses afterward that you can apply to the next model you build. Every completed model becomes a learning experience. An imperfect finished model usually teaches more than a perfect model that never gets completed. And number 5, experimenting with new ideas. Growth often happens when you step outside your comfort zone, i.e., push your modeling boundary, such as trying a new paint brand, testing a weathering technique, modifying a build sequence, or creating a homemade tool or solution. Experimentation helps you discover what works for you rather than simply copying what works for someone else. Tutorials can show you what to do. Reviews can tell you what to buy. Other people can share their experience, but none of those things can build skill for you. Skill is built one project, one problem, one mistake, and one lesson at a time. That doesn't mean tutorials are bad. Far from it. The real question isn't whether you should watch tutorials. It's how to use them without letting them get in the way of actual building. That's where finding the right balance becomes important. Now let's talk about how we get that right balance. Number 1, you watch tutorials for inspiration, not as instruction manuals. Tutorials are most valuable when they give you ideas, not when they become a strict set of rules. For example, you see a new weathering technique and you adapt it to your own style. You learn a different paint sequence and try parts of it. You pick up tips without feeling obligated to copy every step. Use tutorials as a source of ideas and knowledge, not as a checklist that must be followed exactly. Number 2, try different approaches. Just because a technique works for one builder doesn't mean it's the only way to achieve a great result. Experiment with different paint brands. Try both hand painting and airbrushing. Test different decal solutions and develop your own workflow. The more approaches you try, the more likely you are to find what works best for you. Number 3, don't assume there's only one correct way. One of the biggest misconceptions in modeling is that there's a single right method for every task. Different builders use different paints. Different builders weather differently. Different builders assemble and paint in different sequences. If multiple experienced modelers are getting excellent results with different methods, that should tell us there's more than one path to success. Number 4, build with what you have. Don't let a lack of tools, products, or equipment stop you from enjoying the hobby. Start with basic hobby tools. Use paints you already own. Learn techniques before upgrading your equipment and make the most of your current setup. Many great modelers develop their skills long before upgrading to premium tools or large collections of supplies. Skill usually matters more than equipment. Number 5, focus on finishing projects rather than chasing perfection. Improvement comes from completing builds and applying lessons learned to the next one. Accept minor flaws and move forward. Treat each model as a learning opportunity and build more often instead of endlessly correcting tiny imperfections. A completed model teaches valuable lessons. An unfinished model teaches very little because the learning process stops before the model is completed. The goal isn't to stop watching tutorials. The goal is to make tutorials support your modeling rather than replace it. Learn from others, borrow ideas, experiment, and then get your ass to the workbench and build. The best tutorial you'll ever watch is one that motivates you to turn off YouTube, sit your ass at the bench, and start working on your next model. So let's put a bow around all this by saying the following. I really don't think tutorials are the problem. I think the problem is when we replace building with watching. Tutorials are incredible tools, but they're at their best when they inspire you to get your ass to the bench and not keep you sitting in front of a screen. So that brings me to the question. Do you think YouTube has made you a better modeler? Or has it made you overthink the hobby? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Always love hearing from you. As usual, if you like what you see, don't hesitate to hit that like and subscribe button. Both buttons help the channel immensely. Don't forget that all my links to every bit of information you need on the channel and all my discount codes, all those can be found in each video description. So if you want to know something that's going on in the channel, go there. And next video will be, well, after this video's done and uploaded, I am on vacation for a week. It's going to be a working vacation as it was last year. I'm going to do some tweaks and some improvements on the channel, and I will come back in the next video. I will tell you what those tweaks and improvements are, and I will go into them in depth with you. So that's what the next video will be. So that's all I got for this one. So y'all know what we say around here. Never stop pushing your modeling boundaries, and until next time, we'll see you later. Bye-bye.